Welcome back to Land on Real Estate. My name is Greg Rand, your host on 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com. We're here at the Leading Real Estate Companies of the World Convention, which is awesome for us because we get a chance to talk to people that are bona fide real estate experts on different markets all around the country. And if you're a fan of this show, you know that we view the national market as actually a national marketplace, something for everybody. And you can become a serious expert, a highly knowledgeable individual by doing a couple of simple things in terms of research on the market, understanding what's happening, and getting some people from that local area to help you fill in the blanks. And we have just that sort of expert with us now, Michael Guthrie from Roy Wheeler Realty in Charlottesville, Virginia. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
Good. It's great to have you. Now, you do a real estate show in your marketplace on the radio, right?
I do. I've got a little show called Real Estate Matters with Michael Guthrie. We're on News Radio 1070, which is an AM channel, but we're also stream it, so you can go to WINA.com, click on Listen Live at 10 o'clock on Saturday mornings and hear it. I'm sure we got people all over the country and all over the world listening to it every Saturday.
Audience, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So now, I told you before we went on the air that you make me nervous. Usually I have rookies in here that I could be making all kinds of mistakes they wouldn't know, and now I'm sitting here making sure that I don't cough or anything like that. But it's good to have a fellow traveler in the radio business here.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a couple of years now. I've really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, it's cool. You know what? Listen, talk radio is a really cool medium because you get a chance to get to know people because you can't script this, you know? I mean, as you'll see, we'll do all kinds of silly things and not be able to take it back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of people on my show that will say, now, when I make a mistake, you'll just cut and we'll start again. I say, no.
This is live.
We're going forward. Whatever happens, happens.
Very good. So now, Charlottesville, Virginia, one of the things that was really interesting to me is that my company, Own America, is all about teaching people how to own America, how to buy little pieces of it and become wealthy as a result. And we did a survey asking people a whole bunch of questions. One of them was, where do you live and where are you thinking about investing? And I totally expected to see a lot of Phoenix, a lot of Vegas, a lot of Florida. So our heart goes out to those folks because those markets have been hit especially hard, and they get a lot of coverage on the news media about their quote-unquote meltdowns. But Virginia showed up in the top three in terms of markets folks would want to pick. What are you seeing? Is it a best-kept secret that's getting out? I mean, what is we'll talk about some of the specifics in terms of what the data tells us, but what is the attitude of people who are coming in from other places? What do they know that other people are forgetting?
Well, the benefit of Virginia, and especially the Central Virginia area, which is where our market is we benefit from a pretty strong employment base with the University of Virginia. State Farms has a large regional headquarters there. National Ground Intelligence Center, Defense Intelligence Agency has opened up a huge operation there. But we also benefit from the second home retirement market. People love Charlottesville. When you look at the different surveys that go out, we're normally in the top 10 for best places to live. UVA is always in the top 10 for the best public universities in the country. But we also have the opportunity to benefit, not quite as much as North Carolina and South Carolina, but we have the opportunity to have people who go to Florida, think that that's where they want to live, get in the summer, it's too hot, and they decide to bounce back to somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
And Virginia is a moderate temperature, four-season type of state where people, it will snow, but doesn't snow too much and too often. And so they find that they can find sort of the medium ground there. And so
change the seasons, but also not like too harsh and change the seasons.
Yeah, we get the leaves and we get a little bit of snow, and but people, can play golf pretty much, 10 months of the year. Some days you can't, but 10 months a year you can be outside doing stuff.
So, and you're being polite about the fact that it's sort of the bounce back trend or the half back trend, the people who went to Florida 25 years ago who are now coming halfway back. We all know it's because there are too many New Yorkers still coming to Florida. You're just being polite because I'm a New Yorker, but we can take it. We understand it.
Well, a lot of Ohio people, too. I mean, we have a little place in Naples, and golly day, my sister and her husband live in Toledo. I swear, it's like a second home, really, for them, because they get down there, and all their friends are there from up north. So.
They call them Ohaitians, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
All right, well, cool. So one of the things that we're going to do here is I have a chart up on the screen that our listeners obviously can't see, but we're going to try to paint a picture for them of what home prices have done in Charlottesville over the last 10 years. And as we all know, 10 years is the shortest time span you should be measuring real estate in, okay? 2 years doesn't count. Even 5 years doesn't count. It's a long-term asset class. And what your market has done is it began the trend at about $130,000 for an average priced house. It peaked in 2007 at something north of $310,000, $320,000, something like that. and then it came back down again to the mid-2s again. So it's above where it was 10 years ago, but it's less than it was 5 years ago. What's it felt like because you watch the same news that I watch, and they come on there and they talk about the meltdown, and you've had a decline, but what's it felt like in the market?
Well, I think the first thing is I always liken it to the old biology experiment where you boil that frog and it doesn't even know it's dying, and then it's dead, and then you dissect the poor little critter. Well, that's kind of what it's felt like for the last 6 years. We feel like we've just been slowly boiled almost to death. The good news is I think we have reached the bottom. We were at 315, 320 back there at the top, and now we're 230, 240. There's been a little blip in the last couple months. We have a fairly strong farms and estates and acreage type of real estate market as well. That has gotten killed in the last several years, and I've just noticed in the last couple, 3 months that some of those houses, those second homeowners, the folks who have a lot of money and don't have to sell, it's taken them 6 years, but they finally realize that they're not going to get the 2005 price anymore, right, and therefore they're pricing them realistically, and some of those larger properties are starting to be sold, so the average has bumped up a little bit. But I think the biggest thing is I talk about on my show, you need to understand national, you need to understand the statewide scenario, but it really is a local deal.
Right.
And for me, the first statistic I look at every month is inventory. How much is out there for people to buy? And until that number comes down, you can't have a real housing recovery and begin to see any sort of appreciation. And we're just starting to see that inventory starting to increase a little bit. Whereas a lot of these places you talked about, things crash and burn. There was a lot of inventory. You go up to Northern Virginia now, around D.C., and there are pockets there that they can't find a house to buy. And we're far from that at this point.
I want people to understand that real estate is a very common sense asset class. It's a pure supply and demand play. And when we talk about inventory, that's properties for sale, all right? And that's supply. And when there's too much of it, that's going to put downward pressure on prices. Very simply, there's fewer buyers than sellers. The sellers are going to compete for the buyers in the form of reducing their prices eventually to get that sale. The opposite is true in an increasing market where the buyers are outbidding each other. People have a tendency to understand that phenomenon better because, a bidding war. People are offering more and more and more, driving prices up. Well, the reverse happens in a downward market where the sellers are outbidding each other essentially by reducing their prices. But we believe that the beauty of the market is that it is so slow moving. Use the analogy of the boiling frog. It's a slow moving market. And you don't have to know exactly when the turnarounds are going to happen, as long as you know what they're going to look like when they start to happen. And that inventory number is a big one. When you begin this is why having people on the ground who are really experienced, and a broker owner is somebody who has to make business decisions based upon their livelihood as to when the market's going to speed up or slow down. So you've got your methodologies of being able to sense when this market's shifting. Are you seeing a change in attitudes? One of the early indicators is buyer attitudes changing. You start to see things like bidding wars starting to kick up. Are you seeing any of that activity now where buyers are starting to get a little more
we are. We've begun to see some multiple offers. We've begun to see, buyers. I think it's really important that a buyer, and I don't want to create it falsely or artificially, but there needs to be an urgency. And I think what buyers are seeing is they're seeing that we are bouncing along the bottom. And so they feel like that even if going back, I love your idea of the at least 5 years, if not 10, because I think they see that even if they buy it and it drops down a little bit more, the bottom's already there. And then this increase in the interest rates that is clearly beginning to happen, and a lot of folks are saying that they're going to bump up. Now, they're not going to be terrible, but they're not going to be 2.5% or 3%. They may be 6 or whatever. Well, that buying power of that 2.5% interest rate is huge, and I think the buyers understand it. They're savvy, and so now we've got what I'm seeing as far as one of those signs, if you will, is my agents are very busy out showing property. They may not be on paper yet, but the folks are back out there. The new homes builders are saying that the traffic through their models has increased dramatically. They're not seeing it in contracts yet, but they will. There's no doubt about it. And I think the other thing, and you probably say this on your show, one of the things that I advise my folks all the time is when you think about buying, you're thinking about the long term. And so if there's any way that you can, you're a first-time buyer, and maybe even a second-time buyer, that you buy that house with a mortgage payment that's equal to whatever you could rent it for in that market, then you're in a situation if you all of a sudden have to move 2 or 3 years you didn't think so, or you have a kid and now it's not,
staying power, right?
You can have somebody else be paying that mortgage, and you can go buy something else and be fine.
That's interesting. Yeah, we have a way of teaching real estate investing where one of our principles is buy to hold, not buy and hold, buy to holds, whether you're investing or going to live in it. And I never thought about telling home buyers, ask the question about the rental market. Okay, even if you never plan on renting it, ask the question, because if you're hesitant because you're not sure if your job is secure enough, you might get transferred, whatever the reasons why you're hesitant, you want to be you have a housing expense. If you like to live indoors, like most of us do, you're going to have to pay some money every month to be able to keep that roof over your head. There are people out there these days who are saying, and it's one of the stupidest things I ever heard, that now that the home ownership rate is declining, for reasons that we all understand, right? People are losing homes to foreclosures, banks are tight on their lending standards, people are squeamish about buying a home because it's a big commitment during a recession. That's the reason why home ownership rates are coming down. It's not because home ownership is dead. It's not because the next generation doesn't care about home ownership, although you'll read that on the cover of Time magazine. They're clueless about the reasons why that decline is happening. But the idea that you want to amortize a mortgage with your payments, Like I was on TV last week on Fox, and the gal said, what's the difference between renting and owning? I have a big mortgage anyway. I don't own the home. I was like, yeah, but you will eventually.
Well, the other thing that's really important is, depending on which stats you want to believe, you start talking about a 3.2% rental increase annually over the next 10 years, and you look at what you're paying now at $1,000, and 5, 6, 7 years later, look at what that rent payment is. You buy something, you do a FHA 3.5% down and get the seller to pay the closing costs, and your mortgage doesn't change.
Right.
That $1,000 is still $1,000 instead of, I forget what it was, $1,480 or $1,560, and all that money's gone. You don't even get the mortgage interest deduction is here to stay. I don't see that being taken away. I think maybe it'll be taken away in maybe some of the higher price ranges, but for the first, second, third-time buyer, they're still going to have that benefit. And if we are bouncing on the bottom, like I'm thinking, they'll get the appreciation as well. But even if they don't get the appreciation, they're so much better off because it's their house.
Out for a profit. I mean, that's the beauty.
Exactly
That rental increase, the thing that people miss. Home ownership rates are going down. People who are leaving houses in foreclosure or through a short sale want to live in a house. They have kids. They want to have them in the backyard. They want to keep them in the same school district if they can. And so the demand for home rentals is going through the roof.
Absolutely.
And if you can rent it for $1,000 right now, you can rent it for $1,100 next year. It is a life-changing decision to recognize this housing crisis as an opportunity. It's a life-changing decision to recognize when it's starting to be over, and to have faith in the fact that after a crash is going to come a boom. You're going to have to wait for it, but you plant your seeds now and hang on to it for 50. Think of it as a retirement fund. Think of it as a college fund for your kids. Get out of the mindset of the short-term nonsense buy and flip, and think of it as wealth management. And you're going to look back and you're going to thank us for pushing you towards this decision to invest capital in real estate, because it's going to appreciate
the
and
other
make
thing
you
I
money.
think is really important too is you think about the cyclical again. Everybody is now, instead of building these buildings and making them fee simple condo units, they're rentals. Well, at some point that inventory is going to get too flush, and those will start converting back again, and then you're in that position where you've held on to that thing, and you're going to be fine, because everything in our business is cyclical. There's no doubt about it.
All right, we're talking to Michael Guthrie from Roy Wheeler Realty in Charlottesville, Virginia. Anything you want to throw in before we go to a break?
No, I appreciate the time, and good luck with everything that you're doing. I look forward to following you on your show as well.
I appreciate it. What is the website address for them to find you?
It's www.roywheeler.com, or they can go to www.wina.com. Click on podcasts, go to Real Estate Matters, and the archive of all our shows are there, and lots of good information for folks to learn more about what's going on, because real estate does matter.
Very nice. Okay, Michael Guthrie, thanks for being here. You're listening to Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com. We'll be back in a moment.